We are live in Banjul, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. This is the news at 2200 hours with me, Momodin Jai. Our top stories. The President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, hold talks with the Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Conference, His Excellency Yusuf bin Al-Ahmad Al-Utaymin in Saudi Arabia. Army Chief of Defense Staff Lieutenant General Yakuba Drame and team conclude first leg of nationwide tour with engagements in the Lower River region. And on community development matters, Brikama Area Council disburses over $1.4 million to 7 communities across the West Coast region. Plus, France says it is not abandoning the war against insurgents in the Sahel, well, despite Paris' announcement of drawdown of its troop presence in Mali. And George Floyd's murderer Derek Chauvin sentenced to over 22 years in jail. And in sports, delegates and representatives of sporting bodies meet for the GNOC annual general meeting, the first in 4 years. Well, these plus much more coming ahead in the news with me, Momodin Jai. Stay tuned. The President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, has reassured that the Gambia is well prepared to host the OIC summit next year. The Gambian leader gave these reassurances during a meeting with the Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Conference, His Excellency Yusuf bin Ahmed Al-Utaymin. As we hear in this report by Momodi Jallo, the OIC boss praised the Gambia's efforts in promoting Islamic solidarity and strengthening the organization.
The Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Conference, His Excellency Yusuf bin Ahmad Al-Utaymin, paid a courtesy call on the President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, at his hotel in Jeddah. The meeting, which was also attended by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Mamadou Tangara, touched on issues surrounding global peace and security and the Gambia's hosting of the OIC summit next year. Speaking to GRTS, Mr. Al-Utaymin praised the efforts of the Gambia government under the leadership of President Barrow in promoting international peace and supporting the fight against terrorism.
I am very honored to meet Mr. President. I know Mr. President for a long period of time, since his inauguration for the first time 4 years ago. I find him to be so gracious, so understanding, and so realistic about the Ummah issues. Of course, we talk about the Ummah issues, especially peace and security, fighting terrorism, extremism. I told him the position of OIC that is against all of the terrorist acts, no matter what, and there is no excuse for terrorism, no matter what. Terrorism is terrorism, and doesn't represent Islam. Terrorism has no religion, no nationality, no race. Terrorism is terrorism.
The OIC Secretary General also commended the Gambia's strong commitment to the hosting of the OIC summit next year, an event which brings together the leaders of 57 members of the OIC.
We talk about the arrangement of how to organize the summit. We have a focal point in both sides, so we make it as smooth as possible. Mr. President emphasized the importance that the stay of the kings, emirs, and the president to be as pleasant as possible. He assured me that the infrastructure almost completed and everything is ready, and try to prioritize what is important for Ummah.
He reassured that the OIC will continue to work with the Gambia to prepare the ground for the all-important event, which will be the highest profile event hosted by the Gambia in nearly 2 decades. Momodou Jallo, GRTS News.
The first leg of the tour by the Chief of Defence Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces wrapped up in Mansakonko in the Lower River region, where CDS Dramé met the governor of the region before an inspection visit to the troops stationed in the area. Aissatou Keita reports.
It is the final day of the first leg of a nationwide tour by the Gambia Armed Forces High Command, led by the Chief of Defence Staff, Lieutenant General Yakuba Dramé, to inspect military installations and a rare opportunity to have face-to-face dialogue with the troops under his command. The objective of the tour is to engage in constructive and frank discussions on work-related issues with the men and women in uniform, whose core mandate as enshrined in the Constitution is to protect and safeguard the territorial integrity of the Gambia.
He led those operations during his lifetime. He did not sit in Medina to give instruction for them to advance, but rather all those battles, he partook in those battles. Not only partaking, but equally guiding and directing the operations. If the Prophet can do it, and now you can do it, see it as a noble profession.
As in previous venues, the Army Chief engaged his troops in Kudang in the Central River region, Pakaliba Camp in the Lower River region, and the Naval Command at the Bamba Tenda Yili Tenda Strip, before heading to the office of the governor of the Lower River region.
We're doing additionally different. I work for the day I close. They are there 27 to make sure that the entire Gambia is at sleep. We are all resting. So in as much as we are demanding more than the capacity, but if we complement their efforts, it will be easier for all of us to do.
CDS Drama then proceeded to meet the security officers stationed at the Mansakonko camp and finally meeting his troops for the usual engagement. After what has been a hectic but rewarding mission crisscrossing provincial Gambia, inspecting military facilities and interacting with troops stationed across the country, the CDS and its entourage will take deserved break over the weekend before hitting the roads again on Monday for the second leg in the West Coast region and the Greater Banjul area. For GRTS News, this is Aissatou Keita.
The Brikama Area Council has presented $1.4 million to 7 communities in the West Coast region at a ceremony held at the council ground. The funds are meant to support the implementation of community demand-driven projects across 7 communities in the region. Aissatou Gasama tells us more.
Disbursement of $1.4 million in these communities by the Brikama Area Council is consistent with their vision and strategic goals to enhance the quality of life of the inhabitants through citizen-focused service delivery, says BAC Chief Executive Officer Modu Jonga.
Disbursing $450,000 to the NEMA Kabilo Development Association. Second, we will be disbursing $100,000 to the Marakisa Sport Committee to complete the fencing of a football field in Marakisa. And thirdly, we will disburse $250,000 to the Lamen CDC Development Association to support the rehabilitation of a road of 4.8 kilometers. Fourth, we will disburse $156,500 to the Progressive Youths of Kampasa in Fonyi for the purpose of upgrading the only water borehole system in that community. $138,500 to Sangajor Village Development Committee for the purpose of also upgrading the water borehole system in that community in Fonyi Kansala. And 6, we will disburse $62,400 to Tauto Village Development Committee for the extension of water supply. Finally, we will disburse $259,910 to Cloro Village Development Committee to complete a market project that they initiated in 2005.
In the words of Brikama Area Council Chairman Sirifo Sonko, said his council will want to make a difference in the local government fraternity by giving back what is due to the taxpayers in accordance with the Local Government Act.
As promised during our last disbursement, this will never stop, inshallah, but it can also not be possible without the communities ready to pay their dues. I am hereby calling all the communities of West Coast region to be tax compliant. This can never be possible without paying our taxes and on time.
For the Deputy Governor of West Coast Region, Musa Suso, said the intervention is timely and a step in the right direction.
These funds have come after a formal request by various communities which must have been done based on their needs and aspirations. As for the ward councillors, from henceforth must diligently work hand in glove with your VDCs to ensure that these funds that have been disbursed here today are spent purposefully to meet the development needs of your communities.
Speaking on behalf of the beneficiaries, Demba Sow assured the council that the funds will be judiciously utilized.
Assuring your humble council that the terms and conditions mentioned in your approval letter will be honored and then followed as in conformity with council expectation. We will ensure that every procedure shall be followed, well documented, and then shared with the council.
The intervention by the area council is expected to improve access to clean drinking water, improve basic amenities, better security, markets, and social facilities. For the news, I am Aissatou Jata Gassama.
Project Steering Committee members of the large-scale ecosystem-based adaptation project held climate resilience building inspection and plenary sessions with implementing agencies and communities in Upper and Central River regions respectively. As Suma Jadama reports, IBA project is restoring hectares of degraded forests and farmlands in rural Gambia.
EVA Project Steering Committee members extended their monitoring exercise to intervention areas in Upper and Central River region. The Climate Resilience Building Project is massively using school and farmer support agroforestry initiative to restore degraded forests and farmlands. Abubakar S. Wali is a student at Bajakunda Upper and Senior Secondary School.
When the project brought this tree, each student was given a tree. So we water it, we brought manure there. Every evening we water in the evening and the morning. We put manure there and turn it off the soil, and we bring also grasses to put under as sometimes they go. So every time if we don't water the tree, we'll be sent out to go and water the tree. So every student is having the tree in here. But most of the problem is we don't have enough water in the school. That is the problem in the school here.
The visiting delegation held plenary environmental management discussions with implementing agencies and women groups at Karantaba Tabokoto, Bakadaji and Jao respectively. Regional Forestry Officer Central River Region North, Ibrahim Hassane, commended EBA's restoration approach.
When you talk about agroforestry, in the first place, the farms we are talking about is under their ownership, is owned by people. And then compared to other state areas that are considered by some community members as not belonging to anybody, so nobody protects it. But why agroforestry has an edge over other management systems is that in an agroforestry system, all the farmers have their individual or communal, but it is recognized as belonging to an individual or community, as opposed to other entities that are considered to be publicly owned.
Sane described participatory forest management as a step in the right direction.
Trees on their farms are very much protected because they know it's theirs. Like I protect my own property at home. That's how I will protect the trees on my farm, as opposed to what will be a state forest where communities will think it does not belong to them individually, it belongs to the state. So whatever belongs to everybody kind of belongs to nobody, and then is not properly taken care of.
EVA project is preparing to give economic enterprise opportunities to women group in Jawa. Suma W. Jadama reporting for GRTS.
The resilience of organizations for transformative smallholder agriculture roots project through its Rural Poor Stimulus Facility funded by IFAD recently organized a 2-day training in food processing, soap making, tie and dye and batik. The capacity building held in Jinoi Lower River region targeted 30 participants including women, youth and the differently able from across the regions. Alajimbai reports.
The Rural Post Stimulus Facility is a government initiative funded by IFAD through the Roots project. The initiative is a comprehensive approach that looks at the entire agriculture value chain in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The initiative, according to the project director of Roots, Mamour Aliou Diagne, includes the development of income-generating skills as alternatives to crop production.
The RPSF is a comprehensive approach, so it looks at all aspects within the agricultural value chain. This training is about imparting skills, income-generating skills, as an alternative to everyday agricultural production. This is trying to give them the skills, the wherewithal, the means, the know-how particularly, for them to engage in alternative aspects of income generation. So if the lumo is closed, they can resort to tie and dye. They can resort to jam making. They can resort to soap making as an alternative to generate income during difficult situations such as we had in the COVID-19.
The regional coordinator of the Roots project in West Coast region, Kadi Bojang, said the objective of the training is to develop coping strategies in case of disasters such as the COVID-19 pandemic.
The training here we are conducting is the income generation training on skill. It's more of a skill training on food processing, tie and dye, soap making, and processing of forest products. This is what we are doing. The reason for this is a coping strategy. In case we have a failure at the side of food production, we can rely on this type of activities so that it will increase our income.
Elizabeth Mendy is the Roots project coordinator in Lower River region. She explains the components of the training.
When you look at the trainings or the different agendas, you have batik, that is not only related to agriculture. We have processing of chilies into pepper sauce. We also have processing of mango fruits into jam, which are very important in terms of value addition, and that's why it is important that we are able to create other means of adding revenue and income to the farmers so that they are able to meet their needs and even be able to access the market, which is not just only the local product.
The initiative aims to support 9,000 farmers from 1,000 vulnerable households across the country, including youth, women, and differently able people. Alajimbai, GRTS News.
The Senegalese Minister of Commerce paid visit to the Gambia. The visit is part of efforts to boost cooperation between the two countries. Farmer Kanyi has more.
Aminata Jatta, the Senegalese Minister of Commerce and Entourage on Gambian soil, received at the Ker Ayub and Ker Ali border by Sidi KM Keita, the Minister of Trade, Regional Integration and Employment. The visit is a way of promoting the African Continental Free Trade Area, which calls for a free trade environment between neighboring countries. Senegal and the Gambia offers a perfect example of such trade integration than any other two countries in mainland Africa.
Trade is an all-encompassing business. It affects every sector of the economy, and when you trade, it facilitates cooperation. It reflects the true spirit of brotherhood and the oneness that exists between the two countries. So we are working along the directives of the heads of state, extending that to ensure that the excellent neighborliness and brotherhood that exists between us and Senegal as a country is entrenched and reflected in the commercial transaction. We have come to this border post at Ker Aib and Ker Ali as a first step at the ministerial level, and this may be one of the many we will be doing.
Minister Keita and his guest had a brief inspection of the border. The aim is to assess the joint security situation of the border post, as well monitor the conditions of Senegalese and Gambian traders stationed in the area. Many Senegalese and Gambian traders are striving along the border through petty trading. Their presence along the border is positively impacting on the microeconomic advancement of the two countries.
Évidemment ñun ci suñu walum liggéey en tout cas ci trade cooperation bi man ak
Basically, in our trade cooperation, we have laid down some plans to promote the cordial relationship between the Gambia and Senegal.
ndax li gëna tax digënté yi mu rafet moy ñi nga xamantene ñom ñoo yor mbir mi ci frontière yi buñu.
If our borders are properly managed and strengthened through brotherhood, we can achieve a lot together.
benn jafe-jafe ndax benn la ku jógee Sénégal buy dem Gambie du xam ne du am benn jafe-jafe ndax benn la loolu dafay bokk ci li nga xamante ne moom mooy tax li ñu soxla ñu mën koo am.
The Trans-Gambian Corridor is a strategic economic link connecting both the north-southern parts of Senegal and the Gambia. With the bridge over Yele Tenda and Bamba Tenda, an overland traffic flow between the two countries have given birth to an increase in trade and by far put the ECOWAS sub-region on a strong economic footing. For the news, I am Famarakani.
The National Nutrition Agency and the World Food Programme, through support from the government of Japan on Saturday, began a two-day training in basic nutrition and data collection in Biam. The training, as Janke Tura reports, targets health staff and regional supervisors.
These are the identified data collectors selected to be trained in nutrition and data collection in order to build their capacity and equip them with the required knowledge and skills to effectively and efficiently collect nutrition data. Malang and Fofana, the National Nutrition Agency Public Health Nutrition Program Manager, said the training also seeks to build the capacity of data collectors to ensure the availability of correct and consistent quarterly nutrition data.
We know in the country we collect a lot of data on nutrition. Most of it is done periodically through surveys or through nutrition surveillance. Yes, these are very important sources of data. Yes, this provides us information that we need for our planning, but the real-time data that is required sometimes is a challenge.
Coming at a time when the government of Japan supported the government of the Gambia with a sentinel surveillance system, the intervention is part of preparation for the implementation of the World Food Programme Japan-supported project. Yasuhiro Sumura is the World Food Programme country representative.
Very important because sentinel surveillance, this is taking place in 19 sites in all over the territory of the Gambia. And this allows the data collection on the different places and with more frequency. We have big surveys that take place every 3 years, 5 years, but it gives comprehensive pictures. But this sentinel surveillance, it gives more real-time data collection and monthly and seasonal trends.
The support from Japan, according to Yasuhiro, is not the first of its kind, while complementing the government's efforts in the fight against malnutrition. According to officials, including the executive director of NANA, Moduchaya Sinfal, food insecurity and malnutrition still prevails in the Gambia, and handling this crucially requires accurate information and data sharing. He dwelt on the significance of the training, which partly provides knowledge on basic nutrition.
For us to be able to keep a constant eye on the development of malnutrition and prevent it at an early age, now we are coming with this very simple technique that we call sentinel site surveillance. It's not covered in all the country, but 19 sites that are very representative of the country has been chosen. And every quarter, we will collect data from those 19 sites, and that data will be analyzed and fed into the system. And as you already know, as Malang alluded, as the country rep has alluded, data is very critical. It's the nerve center for any development.
Director Fall also urged the nutritionists to make good use of the training, attracting around 50 participants. One of them, Vivian, a nutritionist, has high expectations concerning the training.
Okay, looking from the pre-test, I'm expecting to learn how to use the MUAC, that's the mid-upper arm circumference, how to be able to measure the children's nutritional status using the MWAC, and also to be able to measure accurate height by using the shortboard.
Health information systems are sometimes a challenge due to lack of reliable, timely, and representative and useful information. It is as such expected the knowledge gained in this training may guide participants in implementation of the project and program duties. Janket Toure, GRTS News.
We will take our first break now, but up next is news from outside the Gambia. Stay tuned.
Make your nights as bright as your days with Africell's new night bundle. Your night browsing experience has now been boosted by AfriMoney at the most affordable price. Enjoy the cheapest night bundle in the Gambia and feel the difference in comfort and speed. Activate the night bundle from your AfriMoney account and receive 1 gigabyte of data for $50 is only. Browse, stream, and talk all night long from 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. for only $50. Activate your AfriMoney account by dialing *777# and select Buy Africell Data to choose your night bundle valid for 24 hours. What more could you ask for? This bundle is only available through AfriMoney. Your AfriMoney account, your night browsing. Where Africell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Welcome back. France recently announced that it is ending its military operation against Islamist militants in West Africa's Sahel region. Paris launched Operation Barkhane 7 years ago to try to uproot jihadists from several countries, including Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad. France says it is not abandoning the region and will retrain troops on the ground as part of a wider international force. But critics say the mission was struggling to achieve its goals. Over 5,000 French troops are stationed across the Sahel region for Operation Barkhane. Launched in 2014, its goal was to push back Islamic militants gaining ground and influence. But the mission hasn't made the progress that was hoped for. More in these details by DWTV.
On their way out, these French soldiers have finished their stint in Mali, and soon the operation they've been part of will come to an end too. Over 5,000 French troops are stationed across the Sahel region for Operation Barkhane. Launched in 2014, its goal was to push back Islamist militants gaining ground and influence. But the mission hasn't made the progress that was hoped for. In Mali, jihadists still control swathes of the country, and the situation remains volatile across the region. For some, that's cause to call for France to stay. I ask everyone with a little restraint to let these foreign forces cooperate with the Malian forces, to cooperate with our armed forces in order to be able to complete this task, which is impatiently awaiting us. But many welcome the change. The departure of France is to our advantage because since the French have been there, we have not seen any improvement. We only suffer from day to day. Others say the French mission was always a tall order. It covers more than 5 million square kilometres across West Africa. Experts say securing such a huge area is almost impossible. Adding to the difficulties, there are also accusations that French troops have killed more civilians than they've admitted. For now, though, the French aren't completely going away. The plan is they'll be part of a new mission that relies more on regional and international partners.
Derek Chauvin, a former police officer, was sentenced to prison for the murder of George Floyd on Friday. He was sentenced to 22.5 years in prison, above what was called for in Minnesota state guidelines, but falling short of the 30 years requested by prosecutors. Well, in April, Chauvin was found guilty of killing Floyd, a 46-year-old black man, after kneeling on his neck for over 9 minutes while arresting him in May last year. Floyd's death sparked outrage and protest against police violence and racial discrimination against the United States, or across the United States rather, and the world. We have more in this report.
Heard impact statements from Mr. Floyd's family. They'd called for the maximum jail time for Chauvin. The judge passed sentence for the most serious charge. Chauvin is still facing civil rights charges.
Hennepin County,
DW correspondent Stefan Simons is in Minneapolis in front of the courthouse where the sentencing is happening. Welcome, Stefan. So talk us through the reactions to this sentence.
Well, reactions here right after it was announced that Derek Chauvin will receive or will go to prison for 22 years and a half were subdued, actually, very calm. Now you can maybe hear this and you can see it in the background. I'm stepping out of the picture here. There's a small group of activists or protesters, pro-George Floyd protesters, and there is actually more press there. If it looks as a bigger crowd, that's not the case. This is more press than actually protesters, and they're a little bit agitated, and that has something to do that some people, allegedly white people, are asking questions they don't want to hear. One way or another, 22.5 years for Derek Chauvin. And where does this settle? 40 years would have been the maximum possible. 12 and a half would have been the minimum possible. The prosecutor wanted 30 years. The prosecutor wanted 30 years, and the defense wanted Mr. Chauvin actually to walk free, probation, and walk out of here with the days kept in prison already counted and as a credit for him. Now, Cahill, the judge Cahill, came down with 22.5 years, and the reason for this are the aggregating factors which he had decided on about a month ago that they are valid. For example, that Derek Chauvin showed specific cruelty when he was for 9 minutes and 25 seconds on George Floyd's neck, and that he did what he did in the presence of minors, of children, and so on. So there you have it, 22.5 years. But here's the caveat. Is this over now? No, it is not. Why? Two reasons. A, there is an appeal expected. Defense has about 90 days, 3 months' time to file an appeal and to appeal this judgment from Judge Cahill. Here, the state judges, state charges. Reason number two is there is a federal case still pending against Mr. Chauvin, and that is a civil rights case from federal prosecutors. There's not even a court date for this now, so everything, all things considered, Chauvin and court and how many years he goes to prison, etc., is still an ongoing story.
Right, so 22 and a half years for the murder of George Floyd. You talked us through the immediate reaction there outside the courthouse. Is it too early to have heard from the Floyd family or indeed the Chauvin legal team?
Yeah, it is too early. The Floyd family has spoken during what is called a victim statements period, where the victims could make impact statements. And the two brothers of George Floyd, they were speaking before the sentence was announced, and they had, and that was quite impressive, a lot of trouble actually to stay on point, very emotional, had trouble to speak, had to pause many times and wipe away tears. They talked about the impact for the family, and one brother said and asked and begged or pleaded with the court, saying, I ask you to give him the possible maximum sentence. Whatever is legally possible, please throw the book at him. That gives the family closure. We're expecting the family to speak out in a little bit. Not sure exactly when this will happen, but I assume it will happen, and then we'll know more on this. Now, towards the crowd here in Minneapolis, there is no riots or anything expected here. There will be maybe a shouting here, a shouting there, and a little march down the street or around the Hennepin Government Center, but that's about it.
All right, Stefan Simons in Minneapolis, thank you so much.
Time now to take another break. We shall return with some sports news from the ongoing Euro 2021 games. Welcome back. And in sports, the Gambia National Olympic Committee held its first annual general meeting in 4 years. The ordinary session of the General Assembly brought together executive and board members of the GNOC and delegates representing various sports associations and federations for the presentation of the activity report of GNOC between January 2017 and December 2019. Farmer Abaji attended that session and he tells us more.
It was a tense start to the Congress as a heated debate about the agenda erupted amongst the delegates as to whether the Congress should go ahead or not. After a brief disagreement, voting was held and the majority decided to proceed with the AGM. This gave way for the president of the GNOC to address the Congress delegates, highlighting the importance of the occasion.
This is an AGM to assess and scrutinize persistent gaps and challenges in different areas of our common endeavor. This is an occasion to engage in far-reaching reflection on our goals for our young Gambian athletes.
I therefore call on the GNOC and her associates to stick to the earlier stated and do away, but also dissociate themselves from the politics and smear campaign against innocent associations and individuals.
During this session, the GNOC Secretary General and the Treasurer presented their activity and financial reports for the period between 2017 and 2019.
In addition to support provided to associations through other various programs of the GNOC during the year provided specific support to associations as per their request to meet their sporting calendar. The following associations received support, namely volleyball, golf, karate, cycling, athletics, judo, chess, basketball, tug of war, and the Gambia Sports Journalists Association.
The same page 9 for 2018 income increased by 9,341,215 against 2017, that is 71% increase. The expenditure increased by 8,521,119 against 2017, that is 73%. This resulted to a surplus of 2,247,554 against a surplus of 1,445,448 in 2017, which is 55%.
External auditors share their opinion on the financial statement of the Gambia National Olympic Committee for the past 4 years.
We have audited the accompanying financial statements of the Gambia National Olympic Committee, the GNOC, which comprises the balance sheet, the income statement, the cash flow statement for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statements, including accounting policies applicable to the committee. In our opinion, the financial statements give a true and a fair view of the financial position of the GNOC as at 31st of December 2017, and of its financial performance and cash flows for the year then ended, and has been prepared in accordance with the GNOC Constitution and generally accepted accounting principles.
The reports presented by the executive members of the GNOC were scrutinized by some delegates who raised concerns over certain financial dealings of the National Olympic Committee.
So you faulted with all the regulations of the IOC and our constitution. Only one AGM in 4 years, telling me about the milestone. Please let us help ourselves also. If you're attending international forums, meetings and the like, I mean, look at what you've been given. Leaflets, papers for an AGM, international organization like the National Olympic Committee. We could have got, you should have got a booklet by now that we could have shared with us. But I can understand if you look at the dates, even when the accounts were signed, it was like a rush thing. This should not be. We should have got a booklet organized. What is proper organization we're talking about here? You've lacked in that, you failed in that area. And I believe I can blame the president who should have taken this, the leader. And the secretary, of course, who should be responsible for this news. Giving us leaflets like this. And not even the courtesy to apologize for your action. This is very disheartening.
Yes, the reports are okay based on the period that are given. So I am really satisfied with the report that I had. Notwithstanding, every national organizations or committee has some governance challenges, and I believe they need to work so fast to fix those governance challenges. Yeah.
It has taken the GNOC, one of the biggest and most important sporting bodies in the country, to organize its first annual general meeting in 4 years, which has led to criticisms from some stakeholders over the past few months. However, the reports presented were adopted by the delegates. Farmer Abaji, GRTS News.
And a quick look at our top stories before we take leave of you. President Barrow has held talks with the Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Conference, His Excellency Yusuf bin Al-Ahmed Al-Utaimin, in Saudi Arabia. Army Chief of Defense Staff Lieutenant General Yakuba Drame and team have concluded the first leg of nationwide tour with engagements in the Lower River region. On community development matters, Brikama Area Council has disbursed over $1.4 million to 7 communities across the West Coast region. Plus, France has said it is not abandoning the war against insurgents in the Sahel, well, despite Paris' announcement of drawdown of its troop presence in Mali. And George Floyd's murderer, Derek Chauvin, has been sentenced to over 22 years in jail. And in sports, delegates and representatives of sporting bodies have met for the GNOC annual general meeting, the first in 4 years. Well, that was all in this edition of GRTS News. Thanks for the pleasure of your company and keep watching GRTS.